Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. The new defensive coordinator of the Colts is Gus Bradley, and he joins us now. Hey, Gus, thank you for the time. How are you?
No problem. I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Well, I mean, I'm sitting here watching a crap load of basketball. I know you're a huge basketball guy, too. A crap load of basketball at World of Beer. So, really, I don't even know if I need to tell you anything more than that. I'm at World of Beer watching a crap load of basketball, so it's all good.
That's America right there.
It definitely is. So, still new to the gig here. How are you settling in here with Indy and your new team?
Doing good. I mean, getting to know some of the staff and filling out our staff has been the majority of, our assignments and what we're doing. But I've had good conversations that way, and then, getting to meet our scouting staff and, more of that process and reaching out to our players, checking in there. So it's been a good couple weeks.
Oftentimes a change of scenery from one gig to the other, it's something when you get asked or offered the job that it's an absolute, or it's something that takes a minute to think about. Where were you when you were first approached about becoming the new defensive coordinator here in Indy?
Well, that's a good question. I think back now. I mean, we just came off our playoff game, against Cincinnati, and then I'm not sure just the exact time after that, but they reached out. My agent reached out and told me about the possibility of interviewing with Indianapolis, and that's when it all started. So, not much time after that playoff loss.
Yeah, and you look back at this past season with the Raiders. What do you think? I thought that your team, and in particular your unit, there was just so much growth over the course of the season. And when those guys, your team was put in a must-win situation, I thought that they played at their best, even in that loss in Cincinnati.
Yeah, you know what? It was an interesting year, to say the least. All the things that happened, some adversity within the team, on and off the field. But we had really good leadership. Rich Bisaccia took over as the special teams coach and became the interim head coach, and I think he really kind of stabilized things, and it gave us a chance. But I think as far as defensively, you felt it like Game 8, Game 9, players were talking about it like, they were starting to play faster and faster with every opportunity on the field. And, we needed some wins at the end of the season and got them to put ourselves in the playoff.
Gus Bradley is the defensive coordinator of the Colts on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. I mean, obviously a year ago in Vegas, and, your history as a coordinator in Seattle with the Legion of Boom, most notably. How long does it take you to eyeball that you could expect to have something special in a defense? Because certainly you have tutored some special defenses in your coaching past.
Well, I think it's a combination, right? You get a chance to watch some guys on tape, and we try not to watch too much on tape, just so guys get a fresh start. And we go into it kind of have an open competition and see what we have. But once you get in there where you get the pads on training camp, and you get a feel for their movement and OTAs. And but that training camp, when the pads come on, you kind of see it put together. So it gives you a little direction of some of the opportunities that are going to present themselves during the year. But it takes a little bit of time. But, this group, everything I hear about them, just their football IQ and their love for the game, it's a great situation to be coming into.
Have you had any conversations with any of the players individually to this point? I mean, I know it's really early in the game here, but any talks with anybody?
Sure. I've reached out to some. You always like to reach out more. Some of our focus has been on just putting our staff together. But, the conversations we've had has been very good, very good with the rest of the staff. And the players have been excited. And, still that off season, but, they can't wait for the, that April date when that comes up when we all get together again.
He is Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator of the Colts, via the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. And you certainly have been aware of this. I mean, on the defensive side of the football, Darius Leonard has been a playmaker. I mean, really individually a playmaker to the level. This is two things here. You don't often see somebody like that at that position make so many plays in the turnover category. But really, when you look, when you take it, let's just say, for example, if you were to take that away, it would have been a struggle this past year for this Colts defense. How do you view and how do you plan, at least here in the early stages, to utilize that high level of talent Darius Leonard has?
Right. Well, I think you just try to find out about his skill set, and you learn about it on the field. Obviously, film's a big evaluating tool for us, but to get a chance to see him in a new scheme and see how he operates. And then, you kind of get a feel for his skill set, and it's our job to put players in position to make a lot of plays. And I think that'll be a process that we're all excited about. He's got a lot of respect around the league. He's got a lot of respect from our coaching staff. And, we're excited to work with them.
Yeah, and the one thing, and I'm not going to bring up anything that's ongoing right now because obviously nothing is solidified, but I can ask you this, and I'm curious, especially with what we have seen in the evolution defensively, because when you have a quarterback, there is no doubt that is a big deal, the biggest of deals. But we have started to see the evolution of a defense that's able to contain one of those types of quarterbacks in a late game situation. Kind of like Gus as a baseball closer. You know what I mean? Getting after the quarterback and having a closer defensively, which is something, honestly, that has not been around here since Robert Mathis hung up his helmet. Is that something you see in a guy maybe on tape, if you've looked at it, like Kwity Paye, like Dio Adengbo? Do they have that type of ceiling to be able to be defensive closers in the fashion, for example, we saw San Francisco do to Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay in the postseason last year?
Right. Well, you know what? I think as a defensive coordinator, you're always looking at that fourth quarter rush and how important it is. It wins games for you. It puts yourself in position to maybe get the ball back to the offense to win a game. But it's so important. I think going into it, just past experiences, that was a big emphasis point for us back when we were at the Raiders because they lost quite a few games in that fourth quarter. So putting together a rush, and it's got to be by committee to have four guys. Those days, now you're trying to build it with 8. You can never have enough good rushers. So the guys that you mentioned, obviously, we're very excited about them, and we just got to keep developing them. They've done a good job of developing the past couple of years, and now we need to just take the next step and build on that. But you're right. I think you're always trying to build that team that has that ability to affect the quarterback. Not throughout the game. Not only throughout the game, but especially in that fourth quarter.
Back in your days in Seattle, did you guys? There's no doubt that secondary, and this is like a two-part question, but I'll start right here. That secondary was incredible. I mean, individually, when you're talking about Chancellor or Thomas or Sherman, these guys were individually as talented as anybody in the NFL. But did they take that final step when there were edge rushers or closers, as we talked about, brought to that team?
Well, I think there's no doubt, right? If you have a talented rush, and, most teams it's one or the other. You have a talented rush and your secondary is solid, or vice versa. But I think what really made them special at that time was that there was a rush and the coverage in the back end was pretty talented. So that's what everybody's looking for, right? That old saying of rush and cover work together, that hasn't changed. And so it's important that we put that in. But I tell you what, I'm very excited about the group that we have here. And, it's only going to get better. We've got opportunity in the draft and through free agency to add to it and bring even more good players in. But what we have in place right here, obviously it's proven they've done some very good things. And like I said, it's our job to add to it now.
How key is it to have a guy like DeForest Buckner defensively as a leader of this team?
Well, he sets the pace of the whole defense. When he comes in, it doesn't matter if it's game or practice or meetings. He sets the standard and the pace of how this building operates, especially on the defensive side. So, I'm so excited to have the opportunity to work with him, as all of our coaching staff is. We've heard great things about him, and, we feel like he'll be a tremendous leader for us, on and off the field, and help send the message of what we're trying to accomplish.
Cover corners, individual skill set, Gus, have always been incredibly important. Going all the way back, certainly older than we are. But that dynamic certainly is a higher priority now because this is such a passing league. You mentioned not being able to have enough rushers or edge rushers or guys that can consistently, and I say consistently, get after the quarterback. How about having cover guys as well? Where do you stand as that? Is it more important to have cover guys in the secondary or consistent pass rushers up front? You'd like to have them both, but where's your importance lie?
Right. I would say that you're right. In the back end, it's very important. Those cover corners, especially in our style of play, I mean, we're going to be aggressive on the perimeter. You see a lot of press coverage. We've got to win, at the line of scrimmage and stay on top throughout the route and compete, on comebacks and things like that. But it's very aggressive on the nature, which kind of works hand in hand. I mean, you want to get that quarterback to hitch through tight coverage and allow that pressure to get there. But, just like offensively, we've always believed that it starts up front. Starts up front with our defensive line, and then we build around that.
Gus Bradley is the defensive coordinator of the Colts, kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You mentioned a little bit earlier that you've been in the process of filling out your staff. I have not checked. Are you complete with that, or do you still have some holes to fill here?
Yeah, we still got one that we're looking at. It's we're doing in the beginning the interview process here shortly. So it's been a great process. So we've had a chance to interview a lot of candidates, and get a chance to get a feel for a lot of people, that have great interest in there. Our last one is our Tony Dungy Diversity Coaching Fellowship program that we're looking at, and they're going to have a big impact. It's on our defense, and that's the last position right now that we're looking to fill.
Is there anything in particular you look for as far as what you think is going to be a successful coach, Gus, on your staff?
Well, I've learned this through Pete Carroll. Sometimes when you define a great coach, if someone asks you that without, you kind of describe yourself, because it's kind of a trick that your mind plays with you. And he even taught me that you got to be careful. You want to make sure that you have great diversity on your staff and, different personalities, because there's so many different personalities on the defense that they've got to have someone that they can gravitate to. So I think that's a very important part of it, different personalities on the defensive staff, but obviously very skilled. And we feel like we've got a lot of that different personalities, but very skilled coaches, throughout, from the defensive line all the way back through the secondary.
Hey, Gus, in closing here, I don't want to put you in a bad spot, because then I'll end up getting a call from Matt Conti and he'll be on my ass and everything. So,
they told me to watch out for you.
I don't want to put you in a bad spot, but what did you think when you had to scheme and then ultimately play against this Colts offense that you saw late in December this past year?
Well, you know what? We just came off a game against Cleveland, and we felt like they had a really good offensive line, really good committed run game, and we came out with a win, and then we came right into the Indianapolis game. We thought, oh boy, this is a whole nother level now. This team is a committed run team. They got ability to make big plays on the perimeter with their skill. And it was extremely challenging just because of the offensive line. Their ability to run, the ability to protect, and have a chance for explosive plays. So we saw that they had the ability to score a lot of points. I remember watching that Buffalo game, and we had a lot of respect for what they do offensively, and for Frank and the offensive staff.
It's Gus Bradley, who is the new defensive coordinator of the Colts. So you were a safety and a punter while you were at North Dakota State?
Let's just talk about the safety part.
Well, what was your punting average? I'm sorry. See, when you immediately say that, then I got to go opposite. I just can't help it.
Yeah, I don't know. If I say you're going to look it up. So, it was in the 30s to 40s, somewhere in there. How about that?
Did you guys back then play Indiana State?
No, we did not. No, when I played, it was still Division II at North Dakota State, and then they made the jump to 1AA like in 2006, something like that, and I think they eventually got into the conference. So, yeah, I never had the chance to be involved in the game against Indiana State.
Yeah, well, I'm an Indiana State guy. I like what Kurt Mallory is doing over there collegiately. He's a friend of this show, and I couldn't remember. I think, what were you, 80? I'm not trying to age you here. I assume you probably don't care. 84 to 87. Is that when you were there?
84 to 88. Yep.
Okay.
84 to 88. And the Mallorys have been friends. We had Mike Mallory on our staff in Jacksonville. So I know that Mallory family and got a lot of respect for him. So it's not surprising, with Kurt, that he's doing well there, and you guys appreciate him like that.
Is it a foregone conclusion when you deal with football families that you absolutely get what you pay for if they're a part of your staff?
Well, I think, especially with the Mallory family, I mean, it's from top to bottom. That's, they live football, and, when you have somebody that's played it and coached it and been a part of it and, grew up in that type atmosphere, the challenges that you go through as a family, through a football season, and now you're a coach, you can share a lot of those experiences with the players and coaches, and I think it brings a certain strength to a whole staff.
You look back on your days in Jacksonville. What do you? I mean, I'm assuming you're far from that and probably don't think about it very much. But if you were, what do you think about most?
You know what? It was a great experience. I enjoyed my time there, and it was a great learning experience. Sure, I think every time you have a situation like that, you go through it, and maybe things that you could have done differently, or now especially experiences like I've had with coaches like Anthony Lynn and John Gruen and now Frank. I mean, you see different ways to do it and how they're handling it. So it's always that growing period. But the time that I was there, really enjoyed the people and the team, and still have a lot of contacts through that.
It's awesome. Hey, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate that. I tried to explain to folks, because people think that I can just ask you anything about what's going on with the Colts. And then I start getting ripped in social media. I mean, par for the course, right? And I have to explain to them, hey, there are some things that we can't talk about right now. So I wanted to be careful not to put you in a bad spot.
No, I appreciate that. But I enjoyed it greatly, and I look forward to many more conversations.
Let's do it, Gus. Thank you very much.
Okay, take care.